Hey guys, Aaron from the Ballpit here, back with another episode of The Writer's Block, the show where I talk about artistic or creative topics that titillate my interest at a given moment. And today I want to talk about a tweet that I have come across, just scrolling through my timeline. It should be in the bottom corner, if I've done my job properly. And it says, accepting the existence of magic in a fantasy setting should not be easier than accepting the existence of disabled people in a fantasy setting. And obviously, this post exists to call out people who do not support, or I guess agree with, or whatever else, accept the fact that in a fantasy setting, people can be disabled, or maybe even don't like it whenever a fantasy setting is written in such a way where one of the characters is disabled. And obviously, I agree with this post. Introducing disabilities and other such things to characters help to really flesh out a creative world and flesh out characters, makes them different enough so that there's actual, I guess, definition and lore and depth to characters, while also grounding it in reality in such a way where you go, oh, this isn't a character that was just created for a game or for this movie to serve this plot element to do this. Like, this is a real person. I think there's lots of good examples of this happening. For example, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, Toph. Toph is blind, and her being blind, instead of just having her sight and being like the other members of the gang, and just being an earthbender that they pick up, it adds an element of depth to her character, which is exceptionally important for the story because she's introduced later than Sokka and Katara and Aang, meaning that there's less time for her to build up her own character traits and arcs and development. So having a thing like that automatically gives her depth and separates her from other characters, right? Here is the issue that I have with disabilities in a fantasy setting. And this picture actually perfectly highlights it. If you notice, this female mage or witch, witch is not a great term. Mage or druid or sorceress or whatever's going on. This female magic user is in a wheelchair, like a traditional wheelchair in this fantasy setting. And I don't love that, right? Like, if you're going to introduce a disability to a character in a fantasy setting, I feel like you should do so in a creative manner. Like, the fact that this person is legitimately using magic, and at the same time, and there's a werewolf in the bottom corner, and also has a traditional wheelchair, is weird. There's so many different ways you can handle somebody having paralyzed legs that are creative. You can have them have, if there's futuristic technology in this world, you can do something like that. You can have them have robotic, like spider legs or robotic legs of some kind of floating chair, like something like that. If it's magic, maybe she just casts a spell and is constantly levitating. Like, wouldn't that be cool? This person was constantly levitating. Or maybe they had some type of pet or animal that they rode on. Maybe, they enchanted some form of like a magic carpet or like a cushion or something like that to constantly be levitating throughout. There's so many ways that you can approach a disability in a fantasy character in a way that is creative and cool and actually makes the character unique, instead of just being like, here's this unique character that's using magic in this fantasy world with a normal wheelchair. Right? Do something creative with it. Another good example of this is Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. I know I used her before, but why stray from what works, right? So for Toph, her blindness, while still being a disability, actually is what caused her to be a great earthbender, because it caused her to have to sense what's around her. In that way, they're approaching the disability in a creative way. So instead of being like, this person's just blind and they have to figure out how to earthbend around, like, just around that, like that's just an obstacle, they actually use it in a way. It's still an obstacle, but it causes the character to grow and be different and present the viewer with a unique way of looking at bending as an art and of the world, rather than, just being blind and just throwing rocks around randomly, or being completely helpless because she's blind, right? She's still capable and actually uses the disability. What's another example of? I'm trying to think. I can't think of too many fantasy characters that are like disabled at this very moment. But I know. I feel like it should be done in a creative way, because if you're in a fantasy setting, you have creativity in front of you. You know what I'm saying? You have so many different options. It's totally up to you how you want to handle it and what you want to do. And, I actually think that there should be more disabled characters in fantasy settings. I think that the best thing you can possibly do, whether it's game characters, movie characters, book characters, TV show characters for any medium like this, is give them depth, right? They shouldn't just have traits that are important to the story. They shouldn't just be plot devices. They should be living and breathing characters with virtues and flaws, with different things physically about them. Give them detail, which just adds a little bit to them as characters. I'm going to bring up Avatar again. I've been rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender. Fight me. I don't care. Aang is unique because he has these tattoos all over his body, which oftentimes present unique challenges for him, because he's the only person with these airbending tattoos. Oftentimes when around Fire Nation people, he has to cover them up so he doesn't get recognized. At the same time, they're also a good thing, because not only is he holding on to the culture of his people, but it allows good people to recognize him as the Avatar. He's an airbender, right? So that's one of those things where there's like, this character's been made. So they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to give airbenders these special tattoos, right? But it just makes Aang a little different. Again, Toph blind makes Toph a little different from the normal characters. Sokka not being a bender adds something to the group. It makes him different. Do they always utilize Sokka not being a bender in the best way? No. Sometimes Sokka is a little bit useless. But if you watch through the show, you understand that Sokka's still an important member of the team most of the time. Not in every episode. In some episodes, I feel like they misuse him. But Sokka himself is capable without being a bender. Makes him unique. Katara being a female waterbender actually makes it unique, because she has the entire arc with Pakku where she tries to, show that even though she's a woman, she should still be allowed to fight against gender roles and norms. And that's the thing, is people will be like, oh, why are there gender roles and norms in Avatar, right? It adds more depth to the world, in the same way that having people of all different walks of life adds to the depth of the world. That means people that are disabled, people that are able-bodied. I don't know I'm sorry if I'm using politically incorrect terms. I don't know the politically correct terms at this point for people that aren't disabled. But yeah, the more differences you can add to your fantasy world, the better it can be. Which I think at this point it is a hot take, because there's a lot of people who are like, oh, there shouldn't be racism or discrimination, like religious discrimination or disabled discrimination or weight discrimination or age discrimination, all this various forms of discrimination that exist in the real world in the fantasy setting, because this is supposed to be a fun thing. I want to escape from the real world. No. There, of course, media exists for entertainment. Avatar is incredibly entertaining. At the same time, why should it not be well made? Why should it not be complex? Why should it not be diverse, right? Complexity and entertainment are not mutually exclusive. Diversity and entertainment are not mutually exclusive. At the end of the day, you want the world to be fleshed out, because that's what good art is. And altogether, I think good art has more lasting entertainment than just art that was just made for the purpose of entertainment, right? Just made to be mind-numbing, boring entertainment. Nobody really wants that. That's really all I got for you. I just wanted to kind of give my piece on this tweet. And I feel like my opinion is reflected quite a bit by different people on Twitter. Because at the end of the day, again, I think there should be disabled people in fantasy settings. There absolutely should be. But when it does happen, it should be handled in a creative way. Not like. Sorry, I'm pointing at my monitor, my second monitor when I'm doing it. But really, it's here. Like here is the thing on the screen for you guys. This is lazy. This is lazy. Don't do it like this. Do it and do it right. That's all I gotta say. Thank you guys for stopping by. Hope to see you guys later. Have a great rest of your day.